What's good, family? I'm finishing, I have like 11 minutes left of the Tariq Nasheed and Jared Taylor debate, I guess you would say. And I found the cure for racism. I found the solution. You saw the screen light up? That wasn't me. I didn't make the light any brighter. I found the actual solution to racism. I'll give you more of my background, my perspective. I grew up in Maypoint, New Jersey. So I was born in Newark, raised in East Orange for a few years, moved to Maypoint when I was about 3-4 years old. And I definitely experienced institutionalized racism through the school system. But just the day and age in which I grew up with, the 90s, 2000s, now 2020, I'm largely part of that group that's like, oh my God, it's the year 2000. I can't believe racism is still happening. You know, some people get really frustrated with us. They get frustrated with people like that. And I'm not that disillusioned to think that racism doesn't exist because I'm still the color of my skin. I still have to reflect on the color of my skin. But we do live in neighborhoods and towns in which we don't deal with crime. We don't deal with incidents of race. We deal with reality, you know. I guess that's some sort of privilege, but we've just kind of gotten to the point where you just have to deal with your own life, you know. Your contribution to the neighborhood is you taking care of your family, you going to work so that you can pay your taxes. Because if you can cover your bases and expenses, especially in a very expensive town, that means that you can keep your home improved so the entire property value of the entire neighborhood remains very high. So everyone benefits from you being able to mentally, emotionally, and financially care for your family. We fully accept within where I grew up that race, gender, sexuality are not how you classify people. It's not how you look at the world. So I just feel like that gives me a specific background, a specific platform that many Americans in general, other than people from where I'm from maybe, of life and how you're supposed to them to be lived. So I'll give you the solution straight up, and then I'll go into a bit more of the background in the interview itself. The solution is very clear, because I feel like I just said it, but I'll reiterate it. Your greatest contribution to your neighborhood is you psychologically and financially taking care of your family. So that means that first and foremost, you have to have a family. You have to have a family structure. Whether it's, because in black neighborhoods and black families, I'm in one of those relationships because exactly that experience and that excuse, quite honestly. You gotta stop making excuses for dumb shit like that. Get married. It's more beneficial. There's no benefit to more experience upon my background. I used to be a serial dater. I used to be a player. I used to do all that crazy, dumb crap. And then I found one girl who just completely changed my expectations, my reality, my viewpoint of women. It made me want to change in positive ways and positive directions without her asking me to remain competitive with other men, to keep her in my life. You know, so when you don't have that and you have a woman that just kind of is overly accepting of your situation, she's overly accepting of your failure, and she doesn't drive you or inspire you to express yourself, to use your platform, or to just be a man, you know, whatever that means to you specifically, because being a man means different things to different people. And that's something you have to accept. There's no competition for your masculinity, black man. Your perspective of masculinity isn't fitting your society. And that doesn't go for, let me not talk like that. Let's practice the solution. Men, in general, you know, because I've seen Fight Club. Fight Club wasn't made for black men. Fight Club is definitely some white male cry for masculine attention. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I love it. I absolutely love it. And with that, like my perspective on it is, you gotta be there for your family, and that solves most of our issues, right there and there. I do financial literacy, and I teach financial habits right now as well. So I'll just break it down to you like this: 2 incomes are stronger than 1. If you have children, there's this misconception that children are bad and children are expensive and dumb shit like this. And maybe for a few years, children are whatever you think they might be, but it's an investment. And when you learn how to delay gratification, you learn how to look at the long term, you're no longer stuck within. I just told a client this, that living paycheck to paycheck is a mentality. Living paycheck to paycheck is a choice. Everyone's living paycheck to paycheck. The world is dependent upon the next stream of income. Whatever multiple sources of income that you have, the greater amount of money that you're spending, the greater amount of money that you generate, you're usually generating that amount of money because your expenses are in line with the amount of money that you're generating. So then the key to victory, the key to focus isn't finances, it's not money. You need good financial habits, yes, but you need to make those good decisions, period. Somebody's teaching you to make those good decisions. Your father teaches you how to make those good decisions. Why is that? Being a parent changes you. It's not a magical transformation, it's a biological transformation. You are now in charge of, I'm going to use that terminology. You are now responsible for another life, which makes you a part of society that just accepts that you're responsible for other people. You're your brother's keeper. You're your sister's keeper. There's nothing wrong with visiting your father, visiting your mother. No one should have to tell you to visit your mother and visit your father. Some parents get divorced. Some parents don't work out. Some parents do. That shouldn't affect your personal relationship with your parents, but that would be your personal decision to make. And I'm not sure that people are taught that. I'm very introverted. I don't visit my dad all the time because I don't live with my father. I lived in multiple other states and locations for my father. The least I can do is call, and not hold him responsible within his life. He should feel as if I want to call him. This isn't going to fully address this. My solution is largely focused upon myself. It's largely focused upon using myself as an example. So, as narcissistic and conceited as some people may make that out to sound or be, it's just going to have to settle with you because everyone thinks from their own perspective. I can only give you my life experience. So, with that, fatherhood's a major issue within Black society, a major issue within American society. Most of these young men who are shooting up and killing people, murdering people, it's largely attached to not having a father in the household. So you don't grow up with this perspective of masculinity being patience. You don't grow up thinking that masculinity is sustained power, controlled power. You can only attach the idea of masculinity in this very yang, active method. And yes, a large part of being very masculine alpha male is being active and being ambitious and being determined and going after what you want. But some of the things that you want, boy versus a man, as a man, some of the things that you want, you might have to wait a year or two for. You might have to wait 5 years for. You might have to humble yourself 4 years to return to college or to further your education or to learn a trade so you can provide for your family. I feel like some of us aren't willing to do that. And I feel that because I'm young still, and there's a lot of things that I'm not willing to do. One, because I don't want to be separated from my son, so I don't understand the perspective to begin with as a Black man or as any man. I could never understand not wanting to raise my son. I can understand... It's gonna sound so terrible. I can totally understand not wanting to deal with my son's mother at times. I can totally understand that. But some of you are still having sex with your baby's mother anyway, so it doesn't make any sense not to make her an honest woman. And that's the biggest part of it, is that you have to make people honest. You gotta make honest women. You gotta make honest men. There's nothing wrong with that. I remember a year or two ago, I was getting really deep in faith. And when you first start getting deep in faith, you like compete with everyone that thinks different than you. Then once you understand your own beliefs with anything, you no longer have to compete. You no longer see like this evangelical war. You see a spiritual war, absolutely. But you no longer see the evangelical, I have to constantly tell you how I feel. We had this conversation about being a godly woman, and I said something about it, and she got so offended. And it's the same thing when you tell someone that you can only solve society with Republican beliefs, which I'm going to get into. There's nothing wrong with being a godly person. There's nothing wrong with having virtues. There's nothing wrong with having morality. There's nothing wrong with having ethics. What that shows is that you have empathy. You get that from your father as well. I think we're going over and over again. You get that from your father as well. And you might think that empathy comes from women, but it doesn't. Empathy is a masculine trait. Sympathy is a feminine trait. Empathy comes from a commonality of we all go through suffering, we all go through hardship, we all go through pain. That's something that most men have to endure. I'm sorry if that sounds pro-male in some way, but I don't think that's pro-male at all. I think it's part of the suffering and part of the hardship of being a man that leads to a vast amount of the problems that we have. Is we have a lack of empathy. We have total apathy in this country, quite honestly. It's not an apathy based on color, based off race, because most people, I don't care what color you are, I don't care what sexuality you are, I don't care what your political beliefs are, I hate everybody. You hate yourself. And it's that simple. You hate yourself. We're not dealing with... White people are only 15% of the world population. About 8 to 15% of the world population. And then if you want to get into the different specific categories of what white is, maybe it's like 5 to... It's a very small percentage population. So if you're of the mindset that there is a white supremacist neo-Nazi plot within America, you're correct. But you would then have to understand that the only reason the plot would have to be formed would be because it's not there yet. It's not brought into fruition yet. It's not something in which we're living in a world dominated and controlled by white supremacy. There are white supremacists in this world attempting to dominate and control you. What you need to understand is the power of yet. Yet. The power of yet. It's that Sesame Street flow from my son, man. The power of yet. It hasn't happened yet. And so many of us are we're lost in fear. We're lost in an abject sense of a lack of control over our life based off of something that hasn't happened yet. You've had slavery. Slavery wasn't the total annihilation of African people. It's horrific. It's a tragedy. It's terrible. Growing up without a father is horrific and terrible. Growing up without a mother is horrific and terrible. Growing up with a disease or a life-threatening illness is sickening and terrible. People overcome it. And that's the mindset you need. Like, people overcome it. The war here and the battle here and the great solution within all this is that all the things that you dislike in the world benefit from you being weak. They benefit from you not having integrity. They benefit from you slacking on the basic essentials. Because if you can't take care of your basic essentials of life, if you can't take care of food, shelter, utilities, and transportation, you can't do anything at all. So poverty is your enemy. And there are indeed people that want to keep other people impoverished. There are indeed people that want to keep other people without power. There are indeed people that want to have control over you. They say that black people can't be racist. And that may be true. But if you replate the world, and like a game of civilization, and just one group had that domination victory, or one group shifts quite differently, I don't feel like it matters what color the power structure is. The power structure that we currently live in is your problem. You're attempting to idolize a lifestyle that you have a false perspective of. The reality is, the world's amazing. The reality is, America's incredible. The reality is that your life is your own. The reality is that your key to your existence and your purpose is taking care of your family. And then the reality is that people don't believe that. People have so much obsession with the perspective of what the meaning of life is, what the right religion is. The right religion is your religion, it's having a religion. It's having spiritual discipline to begin with. That's it. That's where you get your ethics and your morals from. And I was going to say ethnicity, but ethnicity, just because you're from a certain ethnic group, doesn't mean that you practice those religious beliefs. There's a difference, there's a divide. And you should be acknowledging, willing to accept that truth. If someone's willing to believe in a higher purpose and a higher power, that's your friend and that's your ally. Any debate and conversation that you have from that point is a debate upon a method of worship, a debate upon just triviality and vanity and fixation. But you would have to read the book of Ephesians to understand that it's most of the things that we concern ourselves with are vanity and vexation. They're not real fears. They're not real things to keep you back. The fear that white people won't like you because you're black is more reason to be the most outstanding black person that's ever existed on this planet. I just hate to break it to you. And that's what people are waiting for. Everyone's struggling. Everyone's dealing with difficulty. People are impressed when you take hardship, you take strife, and you level up. Because then you create a pathway, other than all these men that didn't want to be fathers, all these women that didn't want to be mothers, you create a pathway that people can follow. Well, I want to do it, but no one's showing me how to do it, right? And that's the key. So when other groups and other races can share that information, well, this is how we succeed. Well, this is how we do it. And I feel as if it's so tacit, and and again, we get into those racial biases, we get into this media-driven perspective that one race is doing this, and one race is doing this, and one race is doing, and it's not true. There are no successful white people. There are some. They're not all successful white people. A lot of white people hate their lives. A lot of white people make a lot of money and have no idea what to do with it. And they could very easily be poor in their lifetime. A lot of black people have a great education, have great jobs. And because they believe in white supremacy themselves, because they themselves are a psychological white supremacist, because that's where they've been conditioned and brainwashed to believe, and they've never been liberated, they've never really traveled, they've never really read too much. They read, but they don't read radical black literature, or radical black literature. I think it's radical black literature, but, some people are scared. Some people are scared. That's the problem. They live in fear. So they could be the next black Bill Gates. All these black computer designers, computer programmers, web designers, black people that know code and technology. They can be the next BioWare. But you would then have to understand the structure of organization, making a team, making a business, getting into these different territories of LLCs and things like that. And it's not a matter of which, there's not a lot of black businesses. There's not a lot of businesses, period, if you really get down to it. There's not a lot of people encouraged to become entrepreneurs to begin with. To criticize one specific group of people for not being entrepreneurs, a lot of people, when you tell them that you're going to start a business, no matter what background you're from, think you're fucking crazy. Let's be a little bit more formulaic here. Because again, I can only give you my perspective, so it makes total sense in my head what I'm saying. I feel like I'm listing everything out clearly, but if I had written a script before this, I don't think it would sound really just as genuine. So first, and I think if you got this far in the video to begin with, that's also a part of the solution. Give black people a voice. Listen to what we have to say. But let's go back from the beginning. Number one in my mind, first and foremost, is just fathers. You need more men stepping up to be dads, because then you're forced to have an alternative perspective of life that doesn't revolve around money per se. It revolves around provision, but it doesn't necessarily revolve around, I have to be the richest man in America to provide for my children. You no longer have to think with that kind of ego. You know, you're no longer stuck with, well, I have to do, this is personal experience as well, I no longer have to exercise literally three times a day, because now I have a girlfriend. I don't have to become a professional wrestler or a professional athlete anymore. Not to say that I shouldn't, you know, not to say that you shouldn't have those enormous, gigantic standards, but just, you no longer have this perverted perspective of reality. Your only goal now is keeping your family safe and keeping your family happy. And if other people are thinking like that, and you don't have this ludicrous purge, survival, primordial man mentality that you have to kill and murder other people to survive anymore, because you don't, you'll be good. You know, there's enough out there. There are jobs out there. And your job, read my website, you know, your job is not going to be perfect. It's not going to be the most ideal thing that you want to do forever. You only have to do it for about 5 to 8 hours a day. You know, you still have 16 other hours. And that's what you should look at it as. I have 8 hours to make money. So that means that there are at least 2 other things in life that are just as, if not more important. Fatherhood is so important to solving this issue and solving this crisis, because then you would see these men as they have to go home to raise children. Those children are going to grow up in this world viewing him as their martyr. Whether he was a good father or a bad father, it doesn't make a difference. They need a father. So you're imprisoning and murdering black men, and you don't care. All right, that's nice. That's psychopathic. That's lack of empathy. You should care. You should have some empathy. But if your issue with black America then is that we're killing each other, even though the majority of black people go to jail for nonviolent offenses. I'll just let that settle. I'll repeat it for you if you like. Most black people go to prison for non-violent offenses. We go to prison in such large numbers, not because we're bad people, not because we're evil, but because there's this crazy thing called mandatory minimums in for-profit prisons that your states have to pay fines to if they don't have 90% occupancy. So your states get fined if there aren't people in prison. So the focus of society has become, we're not focused upon raising a society of intelligent, amazing people. Our society has become, okay, our state gets fined for for-profit prisons, we have to reduce the education budget so more kids aren't in school so they commit crimes. So more people grow up with less opportunities so they can commit crimes so we can get paid. That's how people start thinking when their life revolves around money. If you don't want to believe that, okay, I'll talk to you about a system that would probably make a little bit more sense to you. Debt. You know, people aren't making enough money. So instead of raising wages for people instead of cutting into company budgets and company expenses, which are meant to cover all the expenses of the business. One of the major expenses of business are your employees. We're just going to treat the employees like an expense and like the problem. We're not going to pay the employees more money for about 50 to 70 years, but, hopefully they'll commit some crimes and then they go to prison. Or hopefully they're in debt, because if they're in debt, they have to keep working, because they have to keep working to pay off the debt. If they don't pay off their debt, we're going to give them something called a credit score. And the credit score is going to control whether or not they're able to get homes, or whether or not they're able to get shelter or housing, because if they don't do that, then they will commit crimes and go to prison, and then we get paid. This doesn't just affect black people. This affects everybody. How many people do you know have had a house get foreclosed on? How many people do you know that have been evicted before? How many people that you know have had to deal with a divorce, directly or indirectly? How many people do you know have to deal with burying a family? These are the things in life that we should focus on. But instead, our focus is too much on profit. It's not people, and people are the profit. People are the profit. People are also the profits. So the white solution is you need to value human life more. All lives matter. And I think when people say that, it's too quick to... It's just like this Tariq Nasheed thing. It's too much of an assumption to believe that everyone is a part of this white supremacist racist power structure, instead of believing that life is we've inherently broken the human system. We haven't found the perfect model. We haven't found the perfect ideal yet. So it's not a matter of white supremacy. It's not a matter of fearing black people. It's not a matter of fearing immigration. People are fearful of what they can't control and what they don't know. So since they don't know what's going on in black neighborhoods, and all they hear about black neighborhoods are negative, you gotta fix what's negative about the black neighborhood so then it's not true. Because then you're facing the only real problem that you have in the world. The issues that you're personally dealing with. The life that you're personally living. And then other people's lives don't really affect you as much. You're trying to distract from your life to look at someone else's life to say, black people have so much worse than I do. Yeah, some black people do. Some black people have way better lives than you do. They're rich. They love their family and their family loves them. They're pillars of the community. They got friends with every groups of people on the planet. That's what I want to be like. I don't want to be stuck and limited to a block or to a neighborhood or something of that nature. And I don't think most people do. But I think the long-term strategy that I'm willing to implement isn't a long-term strategy most other people are willing to implement either. So there's a difference. You need that long-term gratification, you definitely do. I wouldn't necessarily say that you need to go to college, but you need to see the value of learning a trade. Because a lot of people that go to college don't make any money from college because they don't study anything that's of value. They don't study anything that's worth money. And then when someone tells them initially you're not going to make money off of that, they don't listen and they keep pursuing it. It probably shouldn't have been an option to study to begin with in college, but they do it and they keep studying it. They graduate. Beautiful. It's good for you. Congratulations. There's nothing wrong with that. It's an amazing, wonderful accomplishment. It should be. And there should be a job for you. There should be a career field out there, but there's not. Because as coronavirus has showed us, the majority of these things that you spend money on don't matter. The majority of things that you spend money on aren't going to make you more money. The majority of things that you spend your money on aren't going to make you rich. So if you're not rich, you're not going to be in a position of power or a position of control over your own life. It's not a matter of gaining control over other people. It's not a matter of gaining dominion and domination over other human beings. You need control over your own existence. You need to be able to pay for your rent, for your mortgage, or be able to pay for expenses for your rental properties. Inherently so. before you can talk about anybody else. So you need to focus more on fixing your own life. You need to focus more on your own family. You need to focus more on how you communicate with your friends and how you talk to people. And then you would realize life isn't that bad. Life is worth living. Life is amazing. Life is beautiful. There's other beautiful people in it. If you've never met a white person before, meet a white person. If you've never met a black person before, meet a black person. If you've never had a conversation with an Asian person, you don't have to have sex with an Asian girl to talk to an Asian girl. I'll have you know that first-hand perspective. You know, you lose out a lot when you're too focused on sex, when you're too focused on the physical realm of existence, when you're too focused on how much money someone has or where someone lives. You no longer have value for people. You have value for an image. You need to value people again. You need to value fathers. And I'm not saying that because I am a father. I'm saying because the information is out there and the science is out there that fathers change lives. That's the core of your issue. There's definitely a spiritual thing, but the spiritual issue is that other people can't accept other people's beliefs. So they fight about it or they argue because they feel like they have to. But all it really reveals and shows is that you weren't deep in your faith to begin with. A God-fearing Christian doesn't kill anybody. A Christian doesn't murder anybody. So once you cross that line, you're not a Christian. If you didn't begin as a Christian and then you convert over to Christianity, I guess you found some magical loophole. Repentance is a thing, but it's an immoral sin. So I'm going to end this all with this. Death, murder, is the issue. Your fear of death and your fear of being killed for what you believe and for how you live. If you see all these people getting murdered for no reason, why would you not be outspoken? If you see all these people dying, getting shot, and not even just police brutality, you know, people die drinking and driving. People just died in numbers from coronavirus. If you see all these people that are dying for nothing, why would you live a life of quiet desperation any longer? Why? All those lives are valuable and worth living, and the best thing that you can do for those lives is to follow your dreams, to follow your goals, to make something of yourself, to make your parents proud, to make your family proud. You know, if your family's hating on you, so what? You don't think they're still going to love you despite it? They hate on you because you might talk shit, but you don't back it up. They might dislike you. They might just not like you for real legitimate reasons within your character, and you should focus on those reasons within your character why people don't like you. If people don't agree with what you believe, that's not hating on you. That's a disagreement. You need to stop being so drastic and so immature within your thinking and within your life that you feel like you have to resort to violence to solve your problems. You don't. You have to resort to crime to solve your problems. It's very tempting at times, but you don't. And you miss out on other opportunities. If you would have just approached that person that you want to rob and you asked them to help you, you asked them to assist you, and if they don't want to help you or assist you, then maybe you fucking problem. Go to fucking jail. Make these states some money. I'm joking. That's not fucking funny. But then you would go to crime. You would go to jail for a real fucking reason. You wouldn't just get killed on the side of the fucking street like a goddamn dog. That's fucked up. You don't justify any death. None. Period. Death is bad. Death is the enemy. Life is good. Life is amazing. And life is something to protect. You protect life for better education. You protect life by inspiring families to become whole, and to work on it. You inspire life through supporting creativity, supporting people doing the right thing, and just relax. Relax. You know, enjoy your life. Stop being so fearful. Stop being so jealous. Stop being so envious. Stop being so filled with sin and hatred. And then the world would be amazing. But you make it amazing. Not all this other shit. So thank you. Thank you so much.